Welcome to the Fantasy Golf Bag Podcast, presented by FantasyGolfBag.com, your number one source for the most in-depth PGA Tour analysis in the daily fantasy and sports betting world. Each week, our experts will discuss everything you need to know, from the course preview and key stats to top plays, fades, and strategies. Whether golf betting, grinding out cash games, or playing for a big GPP win, our team has you covered. Let's get after it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Golf Bag Podcast. I will be your host today, Axis, and I am joined by Sky of the Golf Gurus and special guest Ryan Baroff. What's going on, fellas?
Not much, Axis. Thanks for not having me on last week when we would have talked about Fitz for entirely too long.
Yeah.
Huge disappointment by him, especially considering how well Rory and Fleetwood played. So, bad week for me.
Yeah. Sky, how was your week last week?
I mean, it wasn't terrible. I thought we gave it a shot going Rory at some high-dollar GPPs at low ownership, except the rest of the lineup was absolutely brutal. So not a winning day there. But, yeah, Baroff, thanks for the three-peat call that you made. I'm glad to have you on the pod this week.
Yeah, I actually was in the cash with a 4 out of 6 team in the upper dollar single entries until Rory decided to not win the playoffs. So that was great. So, I'm going to just erase last week from the memory bank and go forward here with the Porsche European Open. A couple guys up top from the PGA coming back over. Kuchar is here, Reed is here, Xander is here, Casey's making an appearance, just to list off a few of the bigger names. And of course Guido is here while we're at the big names. So
Yes, there it is.
Just to get really down and dirty right into it, you guys have any thoughts on the course? They've played it 2 years. It seems to have played two different ways if you look at the results. Personally, I think I'm going to be focusing a little more off the tee, even though it didn't really bear its teeth last year. What do you guys think? Baroff, we'll start with you. No, we won't, because we lost Baroff, apparently.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can now.
Yep, that was weird.
Technical difficulties all over today. There are hurricanes down there. Both of them are in Florida, so just bear with us.
Yeah. So you were talking about the guys at the top.
Yeah, I just said I kind of skipped ahead to just briefly. They played the course twice. It's played two different ways, so I'm going to focus a little more on off the tee this year, even though it didn't really show it last year. I was just curious what your thoughts were on the course.
Yeah, same. I think, anytime there are 5 par 5s, I think you do have to weigh that a little bit more if it's off the tee or if it's par 5 scoring. Because even though the scoring hasn't been tremendously low here in the last couple of years, I think a bulk of that scoring is going to come from the par 5s. And then on the flip side, we saw those closing par 5s cost Bryson the event last year, where he went bogey, bogey, triple on those 3 late par 5s. So I think the biggest thing, I'm with you there. It's just trying to figure out which of these top guys you would target, if any, between Casey, Xander, Kuchar, Reed. Why are they here? And I guess how much do you think they're going to put into this one?
Yeah, Sky, you have any thoughts on the course?
No, just to amplify what Baroff said. I mean, anything over 7,500 yards, I mean, that's a long course. And they can stretch it out up to 7,800. They said there's 4 different tee boxes on every single hole. So it's hard not to factor in, off the tee, even though last year, like McAvoy winning, he's one of the shortest people out there. So you saw people up at the top of the board that are not long off the tee, but you're going to have to put it in play. They say it's a little bit more generous, but a strong off the tee game, I think, is going to just put you in a great spot, obviously, with these long approaches. I thought 7 of the 8 par 4s were over 450 yards. So, it just never hurts with that kind of length to get distance off the tee. So I'm definitely factoring it in. But no, I mean, other than that, we have, like you said, a strong field and kind of looking at some of these prices more than anything to attack. It's a tight pricing week. They finally got it really right this week, I think.
Yeah, I think the books got it better. Therefore, DraftKings got it better. But I definitely agree. The pricing this week is much tighter. I don't have a cheap Troy Merritt to fall back on this week, so that's a shame. So if we go right to the top, there is 5 guys above 10K though. So I'm gonna go at I don't know. Any of these guys interest you at all? Because I think only one really interests me, and that would be Thomas Peters.
Dang, I thought I'd be the only one to say that.
No.
Yes, I'm all about Peters for ball striking like a menace again. Last week he couldn't putt with his off the tee game. I'm all over that. Yeah, that's exactly where I go. He's the same odds as Kuchar. They're 14-1, both of them. I think that's a great price for 14-1 at 10-1.
Yeah, it beat me, but Thomas Peters for me too. I think
Wow.
even though last week was not a great course fit for him, and he didn't have the course history, he continued to play well. I believe he was number 1 tee to green last week, right?
So I don't have it right in front of me, but he played very well.
If I pick another, I still like Patrick Reed, just the fact that he's played well here twice before. But yeah, Peters for me as well.
Yeah, I guess Reed would be interesting because he does have the eight rounds here. Gotta keep showing up to keep that lifetime European membership going. So it's not like he's here solely pleasing a sponsor, but 11K. I think 11K is a little much for me for Patrick Reed this week.
Yeah.
So
and
yeah,
to Baroff's point, yes, Peters was number 1 tee to green. Of those that played in the field this week, he was number 1. He gained almost 4 strokes around tee to green. The next closest was Baroff's fanboy, or he's a fanboy of Lucas Herbert, or whatever, and he was like 3 strokes per round tee to green. So a substantial difference of Peters.
Wow. Yeah. All right. So we'll take it into the 9K range. There aren't many golfers here either, starting with Burned at 9.8 down to Audrey at 9K. Sabatini really hurt me last week. I'm afraid to go back to it at 9.6, even though he's been playing very well all year. I think I will be going back to Arnaus, though, at 9K. And I bet him at 33-1 as well. Couldn't pass it up. It's coming.
Yeah, I guess hopefully don't hop in the 333 because it sounds like we're going to have the same start. But yeah, I think price-wise and recent stats-wise, Adri would be the way that I go. I think everybody else in that range is significantly overpriced, from Byrne to Sabs to Schwab to Beauregard, Bjork, Alexander Levay. I think all of them are a bit overpriced this week. So, yeah, my build would lead me towards Adri. I bet him as well. I just don't want to miss out on that. Of course, I had none last week after being all in for the Scandinavian Masters, where he completely blew. I'm having trouble getting him right, but he's one of those guys that I think we know is going to win soon. He's basically what Jordan Smith was a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
Or even like what Matt Wallace was before he started actually winning a lot. So I definitely see him winning.
Yeah, he's kind of like his game shaped around Guido, except he doesn't have the 2 wins,
Jesus.
So,
yeah.
But
he might actually have a win if it wasn't for Guido and out in Kenya, right?
People forget. Actually, Wiley's not over that one still. No,
I'll never forget it.
I agree. I agree with Arnaus, but I do like Schwab too. Or Schwab. I'm really bad at these pronunciations, so please stop me at any time. But
Schwab's fine.
I mean, his game is so interesting. Statistically, it's just so up and down that it turns out when you look at kind of a longer form, he's like looks it's consistent. But I mean, you look at these starts: 8th, 5th, 81st, 75th, 112th, 3rd, 9th, 42nd, 69th, 9th. Like his upside is incredible. But I mean, what was the odds wise last week? 70, 80-1, and now he's 28.
Yeah.
So it's a significant jump. But man, I do like him at $9,400 because I agree people are very overpriced in this range, but I think Audrey is kind of overpriced too. So that's where I don't mind Schwab and Arnaus right there. That'd be my definite 1, too.
I guess at least Arnaus for me is good off the tee. I get Schwab has been negative all year, so I think that would be why I don't want to touch that. So.
And Audrey, good off the tee, is an understatement. He's second on the tour.
Yeah, he's
so,
outstanding off the tee. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I know we mentioned Bjorkquick and Levy. I also think they're egregiously priced, especially for the lack of off the tee game for them as well. And then you get into the interesting mix here of Smith, Sullivan, Horsfield, McIntyre, and Fisher. And I guess I can throw Paratore in there as well. I know Baroff likes Lucas Herbert as well. So I think this is a range I think could make and break your lineup depending. I mean, if you're only making one or two lineups, I think nailing the guy or two from this range is going to be crucial because a lot of ball strikers here.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, I mean, maybe with the exception of like man who last weekend, and we know he's much better than most of these guys. He'd be one that I'd be interested in. But again, if we are going something like Peters, Adri, or Reed or something like that, like you're not going to get him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not much in this. You mentioned Paratore. I mean, I was glad that I had him last week and was able to benefit from his high finish and his ace and everything like that. But again, he was 6,700 last week. Now he's 8,100.
That's crazy.
He does have the course.
He's 40 to 1. 40 to 1, I saw.
Wow.
Well, yeah, he got bet down. He opened at 75, which I have. But I am not going to play him for 8,100.
I'm not going to bet at 40. Yeah. That's a really chasing, in my opinion. I know he's flashed some form, but yeah, no thank you there.
He's won. I mean, he's won on tour.
Yeah.
So at least there's that.
This range is kind of I could play Horsfield. I could play Bobby Mack. I could play Jordan Smith again as well, but like you said, I don't know if I'm going to end up here because I'll probably just go up to Arnaus.
Yeah, I mean, these are all guys that I think we've played recently for 500 to 1,000 less. And I would feel a lot more comfortable with that, especially considering this field is really not much weaker. It's just as strong at the top probably as last week was, and there's plenty of good players here. So
yeah, I mean, Sky, you interested in anybody here?
No, not necessarily. Like, I mean, our obsession with Bobby Mack. It just seems that ball striking game. It's mind blowing to me that he hasn't virtually finished top 20 outside of a links course all year long.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's literally been the only time he's done it. So like I'm gonna pass on him this week. Smith, actually, his approach game, I looked at this, like the strokes gained snapshot. His approach game has been near the top each of his last two tournaments. He's just been awful off the tee, which you wonder coming here, does it benefit that old game a little bit more? I don't know. Horsfield's like an insane birdie menace. I mean, you look at the price though, it's $1,500, even more. I think it was $67 last week, $1,700 more than what he was priced at last week, which was it was blatantly bad last week, but that's such an overcorrection. No, I think Sullivan probably would be my guy of anybody in there, but and I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't talk about Cormac Sharvin at 8K. Like, to him, I'm not going to play him, but those watching out, if anyone who's following the Challenge Tour, kid's an absolute stud. He's came over and played 3 times on the European Tour this year, 2 of them top 20. So I think the kid's got talent. It's good to see him priced at 8K because it's not going to really tempt me if they mispriced him and put him down at 7K, maybe. But kid's going to be a force next year.
Yeah, and I also skipped over Troy Merritt, who I don't have any interest in at 8.6K, but I think I took him in a head-to-head, which I did not write down. But I think that's where I'll try to target someone like him. But
he did lead the field in putting last week, which was kind of wild for Troy Merritt.
Whoa, that's scary. Yeah.
Hard pass.
Yeah. No DFS. I forget who I bet him against. It might have been Bjork, so that really worked out last week too. So great. So jumping down, I know we mentioned Sharvin, and then we get into Paul Waring, who I bet at 80 to 1, and I know Baroff, you like him a lot this week too, which we talked about briefly before we started recording about how we normally catch the very middling Paul Waring tournaments. So
yeah,
everybody be prepared for a T40.
Yeah, and he's a weird combination of like streaky and boring. He's been very consistent. I mean, really, the last year and a half, he's made a ton of cuts. Had like you said, a top 40, top 30 here and there with the occasional top 10. He did get a win last year. Missed out on that one, obviously, but yeah, he's put together plenty of low rounds. His and pretty much all his strokes gained stuff looks pretty good, pretty consistent for a guy priced well below the average. So that's one that I have a lot of interest in. And I think kind of the rest of this range is guys that we traditionally like who are very out of form, right?
Yeah.
If it's Julian Surrey, if it's Adrian, if it's Ryan Fox, Nacho's out of form. Matt Southgate blew up last week. So yeah, not a lot of interest in those guys at all.
No, I'm definitely Waring's the one, and again with the form, you probably could talk me into playing Campillo at 7,900 despite what's going on. Just his bogey avoidance and birdie making has been solid all year. He is excellent at par fives all year. If you're probably wouldn't play him in my only lineup, but I could play him though. I will say that.
Yeah.
I mean, arguably, we're all starting and just running 3v3s against each other because I bet him. I'm in on him as well. So great pot so far, boys.
Yeah. Just don't worry, we'll build the lineup for everybody.
4v4 and 5v5 pretty soon.
Yeah, we'll just build the lineup for everybody.
There it is.
We can all tie for just outside the money together.
Yeah, glorious.
So I'm gonna skip down a little bit unless you guys want to talk about anybody in particular. I know Sky and I can't go pod without talking about Guido. And last week he played fine. He had 2 good rounds and 2 bad rounds. So welcome to Guido's world. I don't know. I won't be afraid to play him again this week. 7,500. He didn't get quite the bump that some others got. Probably because what was he, T30 last week, somewhere around there.
T33. Yep.
So, I mean that's a win for him. That's points he got to check. Yeah. So I'll play him again. And yeah.
Let's try something with Guido. Baroff, you want to talk about him? Rumor has it you're on board too.
Yeah. I mean, I am. And I think regardless of kind of what you guys have showed me over the last year or whatever, the guy makes birdies.
Yes.
So at this mid-price range, like I don't really care what else, but if he's going to put together 18 or 20, I'm going to play him. And I think we saw that again last week. I think the one that I'm going to struggle with, that I'm going to have to force myself off of, is going to be Gagley, because obviously I benefited tremendously from last week's performance, and it's just going to jump up his ownership. So he got an $1,100 price hike. He's going to be very popular. I think last week his off the tee numbers are going to be misleading because they're hitting a lot of irons and hybrids off the tees there. He's not a very good driver of the golf ball, so that could hurt him here. But he's just been so good. His irons have been so good. He showed some nails last week. He played with Rory on that last day and got into the playoffs. So I think that's one that I'm going to have to find a way off of him if he's going to be so popular.
He's like the opposite of Guido. He doesn't make as many birdies, but obviously not nearly the bogeys and blow-up holes that Guido possesses inside him. So, yeah, I was kind of disappointed. I didn't do anything with Gagley last week, which kind of sucked. So, I know another name I've seen talked up a little bit down here on Twitter would be Crocker at 7,400. If you guys have thoughts on him at all.
Yeah, I mean, he's an exceptional driver of the golf ball. I watched closely, when was it? Trophy Hassan, I believe it was.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, Axis, you had the triple-digit ticket. He led for 3 rounds. Campillo got him on Sunday. But the dude is unbelievable off the tee. So if we're emphasizing that, I think that's where, you really come up on him popping. I pulled the trigger. I think I bet him at 125-1. I did the same as Gagley. And to Baroff's point, like maybe that is a smart kind of pivot, getting off of price inflation of Gagley after that second, maybe take the bet and walk away from it DraftKings wise. Cause I mean, I'm looking back through prices and I'm just kind of going back to it a little bit. And without continuing on the 7Ks, I'm actually coming back to Bobby Mack a little bit more now that you guys talked of it. He's probably the one who didn't get any sort of a price bump. I think he was 8K last week. Is that correct?
He was.
I think I'm talking to myself.
He was in my loser lineup. He was there. Yeah.
I'm talking myself back into Bobby Mack now at that price compared to some of these other guys. But we can continue back on to 7K. I just wanted to point out after I was looking more into these prices there. Crocker, yes, great driver of the golf ball. And after we get down there, man, after 7,400, there's one I love, but I don't know outside of that.
Yeah, there's definitely not a lot.
It's ugly.
I'm with you again on Crocker. If we're looking back at where George Smith has won, and if I'm talking about Lucas Herbert, I mean that same mold is Sean Crocker, right?
Yeah.
And it would be Gavin Green if he were here. Not sure why he played last week and not this week when this course is perfect for him. But yeah, I like Crocker as a pivot. I think kind of going off that same mold, the only other guy down here who fits that would be JB Hansen. Form is not that good, but he's another guy who traditionally drives it pretty far, pretty well, and can make a lot of birdies. It doesn't stand out to me, but I think that would be the other name that kind of fits that same mold.
Yeah, it got ugly down here real quick for me. If I'm looking at just guys off the tee who would be interesting, it could be another guy like Minwoo Lee is great off the tee, makes a ton of birdies, makes a ton of bogeys. His irons might not show up though, so
and they don't show up.
I mean, it's rare. It's pretty much all off the tee for him, and then he hits a shitty iron shot and then scrambles his ass off, knocks it in. So it that could be really tilting to follow. So luckily you don't have Shot Tracker for him, although I would probably love to see it after the fact.
I really like Jackson Berard too. Dude's been pretty consistent. He's made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cuts in a row, 7,200. Middling finishes, 4 of those in the top 37, 2 of them in the top 15. I just think he's a solid player. Again, not a crazy price bump for him. I like him quite a bit.
Yeah,
without getting blinded by 1 year of course history, I mean, Christopher Blomstrand is very interesting. I do love all Swedish golfers, but he was near the top of approach at the Scandinavian Masters a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
And finished third last week on the Challenge Tour with a ridiculous closing round. I think he shot like 8 or 9 under the last round. So the fact that he has that going for him and finished runner-up here last year, probably going to make the cut. He clearly can go low, so that may be something, again, if you want to pivot off of a Guido or a Gagley, I think Blomstrand a few hundred less is very interesting.
Yeah. He of people in the field, he led strokes gained approach at the Scandinavian Invitation.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, there's really not much down here. I mean, you can go back to Hugo, I guess, but at 6,900. But other than that, there's really nothing down here for me.
Hugo lost 6 strokes putting in 2 rounds last week.
Yeah, I think that would be the one.
That's amazing.
Interesting. Yeah, I think, and I mean, if you're talking kind of off the tee stuff, I think you have to look at Callum Chinquin. 6,900.
Yep.
I think this guy you mentioned last week, David Drysdale, he did all right again after a long kind of injury layoff and stuff like that. So that could be one that's interesting. Trying to think what else beyond that.
Yeah, I do like Chinquin, because last time we were at an off the tee course, I kind of faded just because he was kind of ass, but it suited his game. He played well. It was probably the last time he played well.
I think that was the one where he was almost first round leader, and then missed the cut, right?
Yeah, that was pretty close to a Keegan. Yeah. But also a guy whose irons are just non-existent.
Yeah,
I had a couple names just of so once we get into this range, I would never play them in a single entry or anything, but it might be something where it's a T20 first round leader, max small MME type of things. Pedro Figueiredo, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but he was number 1 strokes gained approach of those in the field last week.
Was that over 2 rounds?
No, he made the cut. He made the cut. So, and he was very good birdie or better, 21 birdies last week. So he's 6,200, scored 80 DraftKings points. Again, that's his first make cut since the British Masters.
This guy just always throws these random Spanish and Portuguese guys at us who make a ton of birdies, but they can't putt. It's Scott Fernandez. And
are we going to talk about Ivan Quintero Gutierrez?
Not this week, because I got one more here too, and that's Joel Gierbach. He I think he's like top 5 in strokes gained off the tee on the tour this season, 6,100. He did make the cut at Trophy Hassan, barely made the cut. The dude is, I mean, he's not good, but like I'm just looking at like if you see me these two guys on my first round leader card, I think that's why, just kind of pinpointing single stats. What about any of these like challenge tour dudes or any like random guys that got in? Alan John, he was second here last year, I believe.
Yep.
You know anything about him, Baroff?
He's a deaf golfer and he's German. And yeah, that was a big storyline last year. I don't know much about him other than I don't even think those recent results though are challenge tour. I think they're the step below. So
like Alpine.
Like like Alpine. So no, I mean I think Blomstrand would be the one that I go to. The guy that I love playing isn't in the field, so not an issue. But Alexander Knapp is the other one. I think again for these sort of events, if I'm going to take a dart, it's going to be with a German player. So a Knapp is one that I've played many times before.
You're right. It's the Pro Golf Tour for Alan John.
Goodness.
Yeah. And what about Hurley Long? Because that's the same thing.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for the Hurley Long drop.
But I don't know what tour that is. Wiley talked about him again last night, but he's playing on one of those mini tours, but he's doing well. So,
I think Nicolas Hogard is very talented, but it's just not worth it here. No, I mean, the thing is, we play Peters up top. We don't have to go down here. If we're not playing X and Kuchar and those guys, like, I don't think there's any reason you have to be dabbling down here.
I agree. I will not be. Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining. There's a brief discussion for everybody. We decided to run through it pretty quick. There's a lot going on, but we wanted to get that out there for everybody. If you have questions, we're all available on Twitter. I'm sure Baroff would love to tell you how awful your picks are.
We all have the same guys this week, so
yeah, I know.
It's true.
Ride together, die together this week. So
I do have one thing I want to say, Axis.
Yeah.
For those, I posted on Twitter today, and over the last few weeks, we've gotten quite into the Corn Ferry Tour. Swing season, it's literally here. Greenbrier is next week. So I posted last night the season long as well as the KFT finals, last 10 tournaments on the KFT stats for the 50 guys that made it to the tour. So it's kind of an interesting look to see. Again, we're not like having any strokes gained stats. It's just kind of weighted GIR. We got the DraftKings points there, as well as strokes gained field differential, driving accuracy, and such. So we got a deep dive to prepare if you're looking forward to Greenbrier right now. And I know we all shed a couple tears before we went to sleep last night for our boy Justin Harding missing by 1/10 of a point.
I ruined it. I apologize.
I
thought for sure he was in, so I got a little excited, but
Lanto missing that 5-footer. That's all it was.
Well, all right. Again, thanks, guys. If you want to follow Baroff on Twitter, that's rbaroff427 on Twitter. You can find Sky and myself on there as well if you don't follow already. And all of these fun European stats that we talked about, you can also find for a small fee on fantasygolfbag.com, and you can have a look over it yourself. So good luck, everybody, this week, and hopefully you are looking at all three of us at the top of the leaderboard.
All right. Thanks, guys.